Today, the 10th of March 2021, government kicks off the vaccination for COVID-19 with medics at Mulago National Referral Hospital. We have the report in our bulletin today. Welcome to TV Africa News. Hope you had a beautiful day. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahaba Kajura, but first are the headlines. Government begins COVID-19 vaccination today with the medics. Fish deaths leave thousands jobless as talks reduce. Government calls for meeting to solve the Kenya maize ban. And in our sports today, Nigerian coach Ganot names Alhamid Musa as captain in Super Eagles squad ahead of CAF qualifiers. Let's have the news in detail. The long-awaited COVID-19 vaccination has begun today with health workers at Mulago National Referral Hospital and Entebbe Regional Referral Hospital. The Health Minister, Dr. Jane Aruth, said that the two facilities have been treated the highest number of COVID-19 patients since the pandemic hit the country a year ago. Let's have the report.
The event of the launch was presided over by the First Deputy Prime Minister, Alhaj Moses Ali, at Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital in Kampala. Minister of Health, Jane Ruth Acheng, said government has received 300 million AstraZeneca vaccines to cover over 49.6% of the country's population, where phase 1 of the vaccination will focus on health workers, security personnel, and teachers from both public and private institutions.
This will be followed by teachers or lecturers from the 16th to the 19th of March 2021. The other priority groups are requested to remain patient as we purchase and or receive more donations and allocate them appropriate days. Allow me to take this opportunity to applaud all our health workers who have worked tirelessly, exhibited resilience and strength, and sacrificed their lives to save the lives of Ugandans against this deadly virus. Please give them a round of applause.
Whereas many Ugandans have now relaxed about the disease, Dr. Ruth Acheng said the country still registers cases of COVID-19 and deaths, therefore Ugandans need to take care of their lives. Acheng also warned Ugandans on spreading unfactual information about COVID-19.
I also encourage the general public to resist spreading rumors about COVID-19 vaccine, which are unfounded, which are baseless. Always verify your information with the Ministry of Health, with the Vaccine Advisory Committee, or with the Scientific Committee before you continue forwarding to everybody to scare people.
The chief guest of the ceremony, General Moses Ali, appealed to the general public, especially those eligible for the vaccine, to turn up in huge numbers to be vaccinated in order to defeat the deadly virus.
As I conclude, I appeal to all eligible persons to turn up for vaccinations in line with the schedules prepared by the Ministry of Health. And to return.
After taking her dose, Minister Jane Ruth Acheng had this to say.
Allow me to thank the nurse who has just given me my vaccination against COVID-19. It wasn't really painful. There was a small prick like a mosquito bite, and before I knew it, it was done. I think they are experts and they are doing a good job. I also have my vaccination card, which has a serial number and the serial number of the consent form as well, with my national ID number. I was informed that I will be reminded to come back after 8 weeks for the second dose. I want to encourage all of you to get vaccinated. There's nothing scary about it. It's just an infection.
1,900 health workers have been infected by COVID-19 and 19 succumbed to the disease. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Thank you so much, our reporter Nalugo. Now, the executive director of Center for Electoral Democracy Uganda Charity, Ahimbisiwe, has come out and expressed her concern on the missing Ugandans, especially the youths, and asked government to give accountability on every person missing individually. This was during a press conference held at SEDU offices in Muyenga. Let's have the report.
While addressing journalists at their offices in Muyenga, the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy Uganda SEDU Executive Director Charity Ahimbisiwe expressed a concern that the majority of people missing are youths who have been skeptical of participating in the election process, exercising their rights to vote. SEDU demands accountability for people missing, and they have opened up a hotline number for the public to report their missing beloved ones.
Equivocally demands that the authorities account for each of the missing persons that have been reported by families and friends. We have opened a phone line 0702211605 to which relatives can call and report their lost friends and family. We will follow these cases to the letter. We shall compile the cases and submit them to a C of our network of public interest litigation lawyers, but we shall also follow the cases with the police.
According to Ahimbisiwe, this is a direct infringement to the people's rights as guaranteed in Article 29 of the Constitution of Uganda, which provides for right to assemble and associate with the political thinking of one's choice.
Article 32 of the Police Act was declared unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court, and Article 32 was providing that Ugandans can be allowed to hold peaceful demonstrations. The case had been taken to court to pronounce itself on whether it was correct for Ugandans to undertake peaceful demonstrations or not. And the court sat and declared and said Ugandans can actually carry out peaceful demonstrations. However, the only catch-22 in peaceful demonstrations is that they can so easily turn into unpeaceful demonstrations if not credibly handled. So the important thing for us as a coalition is not the demonstration. What is important for us as a coalition is for the political accountability to take place, for justice to happen, and for trust to be built across the different players on the political scene.
Nalugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on, fish stocks have drastically reduced in Lake Victoria in the past 1 month, rendering fishermen and fish dealers unemployed. At some landing sites, which are usually a beehive of activity, there is no business going on. Let's take a look at the story.
Sector players are blaming the situation on the ongoing mass death of fish, particularly the Nile perch, which has left the lake with no stock. This has also pushed the fish prices high. Since December, communities living in and around the shores of Lake Victoria have been complaining over the number of dead Nile perch being washed ashore. The most affected landing sites are in the districts of Buyikwe, Wakiso, Buvuma, Kalangala, Masaka, Jinja and Chotera. The reason for the mass deaths of seemingly healthy fish remains unclear. In both Jinja and Buyikwe districts, fishermen says they have tied up their boats and fishing gear due to lack of fish. Fishermen say when Nile perch started dying, it scared away other fish species, which is now threatening their livelihoods. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mutabazi reporting.
Well, let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. And in our international news today, French President Emmanuel Macron has announced a decision to speed up the declassification of sacred documents related to Algeria's 1954 to 62 War of Independence from France. We have more.
The measures come as part of efforts to speed up access for researchers to the documents and as France aims to reconcile with its colonial past. The French presidency said in a statement that archive services will now be allowed to use a new procedure to declassify documents from 1970 and earlier that were previously being held sacred for national security purposes. Under French laws, almost all archives of the French state, including of defense and security issues, should be made available to the public after 50 authorities have been preventing researchers and academics from working on these archives. In 2018, Macron formally recognized the responsibility of the French state in the 1957 death of a dissident in Algeria, Maurice Odin, admitting for the first time the French military's use of systematic torture during the war. Macron also wants to honor Gisèle Halimi, a French feminist who supported Algeria's independence and denounced the use of torture by French military during the war. Macron also plans to attend 3 commemoration ceremonies by next year, which will mark the 60th anniversary of the end of Algeria's war for independence. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Thank you so much, our reporter Najuma. Now, hundreds of students and High-Rock Movement sympathizers have protested in Algiers on a fresh rally against the Algerian government. We have more.
The pro-democracy movement first mobilized in February 2019 and with weeks forced then-President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to abandon a bid for a 5th term and resign. The group restarted its protests 3 weeks ago. Demonstrators carrying banners marched through the capital's main street to reach the Grand Post, a traditional rallying point for supporters of the protest movement. The protesters took up the Hirak slogans for a free and democratic Algeria and a civil and non-military state. The protest movement still demands the dismantling of the system in place since independence in 1962, anonymous in its eyes with authoritarianism and corruption. Public gatherings in Algeria are currently prohibited to the COVID-19 pandemic. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, once a premier under Bouteflika and elected in a widely boycotted 2019 presidential poll, has reached out to the protest movement while seeking to neutralize it. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
It is Africa Today. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, the Electoral Commission announced President Alassane Ouattara's Hofotists for Democracy and Peace Party. Our HDP party had won a majority of 137 seats in the 255-seat National Assembly. Let's have the report.
Ivory Coast's ruling party won an absolute majority in parliament, the country's electoral commission announced on Tuesday, 3 days after the parliamentary vote. The vote comes just months after Ouattara won a 3rd term in an election marred by unrest that killed at least 85 people. But the parliamentary election passed off peacefully in a sign of hope that the West African country can emerge from recent violence. Ouattara's party was challenged by opposition parties led by 2 of his predecessors, Henry Konan Bedi and Laurent Gbagbo. But on Monday, the main opposition PDCI alleged electoral fraud, and Gbagbo's FPI party called on supporters to remain calm and wait for the official result. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Nalugo. Now, a woman who witnessed the aftermath of the explosions that rocked Equatorial Guinea has said the scenes resembled the detonation of an atomic bomb. Let's have the report.
Around half of those wounded have been discharged from hospital, while the rest are still being treated. President Obiang Nguema Mbasogo faulted the military for mishandling dynamite and other explosive devices kept in its care, which he said had led to the blasts after individuals suspected to be farmers set up a fire in a field bordering the military base. President Mbasogo, 78, appealed for calm and said he was calling for an emergency meeting to assess the situation and get help to those who need it. The first batch of humanitarian aid arrived in the country from Spain on Tuesday, which has sent antibiotics, drugs, and other essentials to treat those wounded in the explosion. Health workers and the fire brigade were providing care to victims and transferring those with serious injuries to hospitals. Mbasogo appealed to the international community to assist his country in the repair of public and private infrastructure damaged in the blast. The incident occurred as Equatorial Guinea reels from the economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Equatorial Guinea is one of Africa's smallest countries with just over 850,000 residents. Bata is one of the country's 2 cities with populations of more than 30,000, the other being the island-based capital, Malabo. For TV Africa, Najuma Luima reporting.
Well, an official from Myanmar, leader Aung San Suu Kyi's party, has died in custody following alleged torture, the second such death while in detention of military forces this week. Let's have the report.
The deaths have raised concerns about the condition and treatment detainees are receiving in detention. Since the military seized power in Aku on February 1st, security forces quickly moved to stifle dissent and arrested government officials, protesters, journalists, civil servants, and NGO workers, and repressed independent media. The United Nations said many people have been taken arbitrarily in nighttime raids and their families do not know where their loved ones are. The National League for Democracy's Zaw Myint Lin died in custody on Tuesday after he was arrested in the biggest city of Yangon. Watchdog Group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, AAPP, released a statement saying Zaw Myint Lin, who was head of an educational institute, was announced dead today from injuries consistent with torture following an arbitrary nighttime raid. The exact cause of death is still unknown, but AAPP added Zaw Myint Lin was subjected to beatings. Shortly before his arrest, Zaw Myint Lin posted a live stream on Facebook in which he said he wants to encourage all citizens across the country that they will be protesting day and night for 24 hours against the dictatorship. He urged people to continue fighting the army.
Well, let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our health news. Well, welcome back from break. And in our health news today, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his wife Asma have tested positive for COVID-19. This was in an official statement issued by President's office.
Syria has recorded at least 45,879 positive COVID-19 cases and 2,023 total deaths based on cumulative numbers of multiple local medical authorities, but full picture of the outbreak in the country has been difficult to get. Damascus received its first shipment of vaccines on March 1st from an unnamed friendly country, according to Syria's state news agency. The name and quantities of the vaccines were not mentioned in the statement. Other territories in Syria, including rebel-held and Qaddash-held locations, have not received vaccines yet. Assad has been repeatedly accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity during Syria's decade-long ongoing war. His government in Damascus has denied the charges. For TV Africa, Najuma Luima reporting.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, away from health, in our business news today, the government of Uganda has called a crisis meeting to settle the deadlock between Uganda and Kenya that has seen the farmers' maize banned. Let's have the report.
The State Minister for the East African Community Affairs said Uganda's Ministers of Trade, Agriculture, East African Community Affairs and Finance are scheduled to hold a meeting today to come up with a common stand regarding the ban ahead of another meeting with their Kenyan counterparts slated for March 11th. According to the Agriculture and Food Authority in Kenya, Ugandan maize contains mycotoxins, particularly aflatoxins and fumonsins, which can cause cancer. The ban comes at a time when the country is still grappling with the economic impact of the COVID-19 restrictions. There is now fear among farmers and maize dealers that the ban would further push the grain prices even lower than they already are. The ban on maize would also see Uganda lose an average of $121 million in annual revenue, according to data obtained from Bank of Uganda. For TV Africa, Najuma Luima reporting.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, in our sports news today, Nigeria coach Ganot has selected Captain Ahmed Musa for his 24-man squad for the upcoming Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Let's have the report.
The 20-year-old has been inactive since leaving Saudi Arabian side Al Nassr in October, and debate has already started in the local media as to what role Musa can play for the Super Eagles later this month against Benin and Lesotho. The high-profile inclusions include the England-based sextet of Ola Aina of Fulani, Leicester City's Wilfred Ndidi and Kelechi Iheanacho, Alex Lobby of Everton, West Brom's Semi Ajay and Watford's William Trost Ekong, despite concerns over their availability due to UK quarantine rules. This is a maiden call-up for in-form striker Sadiq Umar, who plays for Almeria in the Spanish second tier, while top scorer in the Belgian league Paul Onwachi with 25 goals is on the standby list alongside experienced goalkeeper Daniel Akpei. Enyimba goalkeeper Johnny Nobo is the lone selection from the domestic league. Joy Aribo and Leon Baloguni, who have just been crowned Scottish champions with Rangers, are both included as well. The Super Eagles travel to Benin on 27th March as another debate about the option of a roundabout trip from Lagos to Porto Novo for the game rages on. On the final match day, the West African nation will host Lesotho in the commercial capital city of Lagos on 30th March. 3 times continental champions Nigeria currently top Group L on 8 points, 1 ahead of Benin, while Sierra Leone have the 3 points and Lesotho has 2. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mutabazi reporting.
Thank you so much, our reporter Kachanchu. Now, before we end our bulletin, let's have a look at the top stories. Government begins COVID-19 vaccination today with the medics. Fish deaths leave thousands jobless as stocks reduce. Government calls for meeting to solve the Kenya maize ban. And in our sports today, Nigerian coach Ganot names Ahmed Musa as captain in Super Eagles squad ahead of CAFTON qualifiers. Well, thank you so much for watching with us from where we started. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.
This is Africa, and that was the news.